Message from Henry. Should we do this one? Is there a point when you just click and realise you're going to make it as a pro, or does it just surprise you?
I always felt personally that I had ability, but I didn't know where that would lead me. You know, Owens, Rooney's, players like that, you just know are going to be world-class players. You know, for me, it wasn't like that. And for many players, it's not like that. I didn't know whether I'd have it got to a stage where I was sort of 18, 19, where I knew I was going to have a career, but I didn't know at what level. I really, really didn't know. And I remember those first time at QPR, it was so like cutthroat. It was whether you would make it or not. And I got a couple of injuries and I got in and the crowd weren't sure about me. And I'll always remember it to this day against Gillingham when the ball sort of like chested it down and I slipped and I heard the crowd groan. And I thought if I'd have fell over and put it over the bar, would I be here today? You know, but I sweeped it home with it on the volley. And my confidence just grew from there. And then I thought, that was the moment I thought, I'm going to have a career in football. I knew I'd have a career then. And just from one sort of moment. And after that, obviously, I exceeded my wildest dreams with my career. But at that moment, I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a career out of football. And that was all I wanted. You know, everything that's come to me now has been a surprise. Not a surprise because I've worked hard to get there and I always felt that I had the ability to get there. But if you'd have said to me as a 15-year-old that I'd have the career that I've had, I would have thought you were mad.
Chris, did you have a moment like that? You dropped one banger and then it changed your DJing career?
No, look, jokes aside, I think there's this film, isn't there, The Pursuit of Happiness, where Will Smith gets the job, or, you know, Will Smith, the character, like gets this job and then he walks outside and onto the street and it all goes slow-mo and he's buzzing, like, and everyone's just walking around and he's finally got this job he wanted. It's such an amazing moment to have, I think, if you're lucky enough to have it. And it can happen, I think, in any job or any form of achievement, whether it's having a baby or like something you've worked hard for or something you accomplish. But yeah, my job, I felt very lucky to have that. Scott took me to a pub and he was like, I'm not going to tell you this, but Radio 1 are going to offer you a year's contract tomorrow. Because up to then, I'd only been doing like 1 or 2 days a week. And I was so fucking happy because this was, in my world, this was like everything I'd aimed to do and everything I'd done, hospital radio and student, and done everything for free and work experience. And I got this 1 year contract and suddenly I felt secure. And then suddenly the job prospect element of it suddenly felt like it is going to happen. And I remember just having this pint in front of me and downing it. And I've never had elation like that apart from when my kids were born. It's so different. And look, this is about being a footballer, and that's what.
No, but I don't think it's different. I don't think it is different. That's the point. Like when we did Ed Sheeran last week, you know, he talks about when he took, he did a gig with just the sound guy. No one turned up. The same with you. Like you're doing hospital radio. There must have been knockback after knockback after knockback. What makes you keep going? That's the difference. What we're getting to the bottom of with mentality. Like what made him continue? You know, I had so many knockbacks and problems and people told me I wasn't good enough or I didn't look right or, you know, there was constant problems. You must have encountered that as well.
I cried one night. I always remember this. I remember being at my mum and dad's house and I was in bed and I was just thinking, like, there's one thing I really want to do. I was so frustrated because I was answering, that was it. I was actually working at Radio 1 by then. I managed to get a job answering the phones on the Sunday surgery. So I was literally just taking calls, like, but I knew I was just so annoyed because I was like, I felt like I had a foot in the door, but I just wasn't leading anywhere. And I loved doing that, don't get me wrong. And I loved doing the internships and works. But I remember being at home one night and just crying because I was like, I've got to get a proper, like all my mates were getting jobs and I felt I was being maybe like, it was my ego or something was taken over in that I should be looking after my family and my sister had just had a baby and I should do more to support her. And weirdly enough, I then got the call to go in and do what I call a pilot, like a little demo kind of thing, about a week after.
But this is to put, like, I'm saying, like, what makes you keep going? You know, even when when that happens, like, not everyone does, do they? And not everyone should either. No. But there is something, I don't know, that you think, I think it's just the love of what you do, you know?
Don't you think that informed every decision you did, which eventually led to something? Like, the thing is, when I look back at every little thing I did kind of like I did push through that feeling. Maybe, I don't know, but there was obviously a huge amount of luck, and I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't force yourself through those situations, and it's not a nice place to feel. But I think the common thread is, even if it doesn't work out, the ones where it does work out, you still have to go through that phase. That's the common thing that bonds people. Is there is a point where you're upset and you think it's not going to work out. The most important thing about that whole process probably is that you continue to love it regardless. And if it doesn't work out in terms of professional footballer, use what you learn in that situation, apply it to something that you love, and then have both.